Welcome to Becoming Limitless. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking. I'm going to teach you how to eliminate brain fog and upgrade your health so you can have more productivity, energy, and growth in your business. I'm your host, Tanessa Shears. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the Becoming Limitless podcast. I have such an amazing guest to talk with you guys today all about productivity. Don't we love talking about productivity? So Amber De La Garza is the productivity specialist. She's a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, writer, and she hosts a podcast called Productivity Straight Talk. And she helps business owners improve their time management, elevate their productivity to maximize their profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most. So on this episode today, we talk about this concept she's developed, and it's all about the 4 routines she recommends that every entrepreneur have to bookend your day. Now, these are some concepts that I've never heard of before, and I know that I had a whole bunch of takeaways and things that I'm gonna implement to make my business day so much more productive and effective. So I cannot wait for you to jump in and listen to this episode with Amber. Now, speaking of productivity, so much of our ability to get stuff done during the day at our desk comes from whether or not we wake up with energy, whether we feel clear, focused, how fast our brain works, how fast we make decisions. Because one of the things that I find over and over again with entrepreneurs is as we build our business, our health slides right off the table. We stop sleeping well, we don't eat very well, we're not moving. So if this sounds like you and you know that you could be a much more vibrant, healthy, energized, clear, and focused entrepreneur, and you want to take that control back, I would love to invite you to work with me one-on-one in my Becoming Limitless coaching program. It's a coaching program for entrepreneurs who are looking to optimize their brain and their body with science, wearable technology like our Oura Rings and our Fitbits, and accountability and coaching straight from me so that you can feel more energized in your business and your life. So whether you just want to start working out again, or you want to shed a few unwanted pounds, you want to get rid of this nagging stress that has you zoning out at the end of the night, or you're staying up late past bedtime, all of this is just not making you feel the way you want to feel, and maybe, just maybe, you want to get up in the morning and feel good. You have the energy to play with your kids, bang out a productive, sharp day in your business. So if this is you, I would love to work with you, because what I do with my clients is I oversee everything from assessing and monitoring your sleep data to helping you find the simplest way to eat more healthy food and to carve out some time in your evening without your phone in your hand where you can really just relax and feel rejuvenated and refreshed at the end of your day. We basically make a very simple, layered, step-by-step, sustainable health plan, and then I help you bring it to life with weekly coaching calls. So if you're an entrepreneur and you want to take control of your health, go ahead and reach out through Instagram, or I'll drop a link in the show notes where you can jump on a call with me. So let's get into this episode with Amber. Welcome back to the Becoming Limitless podcast. Today, we are going deep on hacking our productivity. And on this episode, we're going to be talking with Amber De La Garza, and she is a productivity specialist. And one of the really cool things, we were talking about this before we jumped on today, was that we have really complementary angles at productivity. So you can't go wrong with the two of us. She does the routines, the structures, and the strategies that are really going to help you be efficient, productive, and get stuff done. And if you've listened to my podcast before, you know I'm all about taking productivity from the health angle, meaning optimizing our brain and how clear we are and focused when we get out of bed in the morning. So you are in for a treat today. And while I was doing my morning walk this morning, I was listening to one of Amber's old episodes on her podcast. And I saw some areas that I could definitely brush up a bit when it comes to some of the routines. And these were concepts that I hadn't heard before. And I was like, oh, this needs to be shared. So you guys are in for a treat today. Amber, welcome to the podcast. How's your morning going?
It's going great. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, like you said, we are so complementary and we are able to talk about this topic from different angles, which I think will be so insightful and powerful for your audience. A little bit about me on the productivity side as well. Your area of expertise is not my area of expertise. I see so much value in it. And I had you on my podcast, and my listeners loved you. So we thought we would just continue this because when people are interested about improving themselves to become better or show up their best selves, I think that it's great to hear different, strategies and opinions, and then everyone can take what really lands for them, or like what they need to hear at that moment, and get some great results. So I'm excited as well.
Yeah, and we'll definitely leave a link in the show notes to the episode that I did on Amber's podcast. But I would really love to hear, I'm curious, like, how did you get into the productivity space? Like, what jazzes you about productivity? Because I know I always get the productivity questions and stuff like that, and we all love it. So tell us, how did this all come into play for you?
That's so funny, right? Because I don't think there's anyone that's like in school that says, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a productivity coach or trainer or speaker. That's just doesn't make the list. And to be honest, it didn't make mine either. I actually had a pretty long career in real estate. And then I worked on the corporate side, and I became a trainer and business coach for real estate agents. So I coached top sales executives how to build their businesses, how to leverage through other people. But I was a corporate employee. And then I had my son. That was 12 years ago. We were chatting about that a little bit before today's episode. And I just had this idea that while the coaching and the business coaching was valuable, there was this resistance and this inability to really execute because there was a lack of skill set. And I believe skill set because I think productivity is something we can learn. So it was like, I just don't have any time to work on my business. There's not enough time to implement these strategies. Like, I think they're great. They knew that if they could, or they did, they would get results. And so when I had my son, I thought, well, what if I taught people how to manage themselves, manage their time, so that that was no longer an excuse for them to show up their best and grow their businesses? Because I was seeing these successful business owners, like they were successful in their own right, but it was almost on accident. And so I was just so intrigued, like, okay, so what if this was on purpose? What if this was without the excuse of I don't have enough time? What could be possible? And I just have a love for small businesses. And so that's kind of how it's a long story. I've been in business for 10 plus years. So then it just kind of snowballed from there until I specialize in small businesses all around time management and productivity.
Yeah, but isn't that funny? Our businesses always do snowball. Like, I started out as an in-gym personal trainer like 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amazing how much businesses change. And we always end up, I think, exactly where we're supposed to end up. And if you're listening to this episode and you're all about the business productivity, that's awesome. But I also want you to really listen for these tips and use this frame when you're coming at it, is like, not only how can I be more productive in my business, but how can I use these time creation or time saving strategies that Amber's going to talk about today to start implementing some of those health habits? And there is place for those in some of the strategies we're going to talk about today. Now, when we were planning for this episode, we were like, okay, what could we talk about? And Amber proposed this idea of her bookend routine system. I don't know if that's what you would call it, but I'm going to just let you have the floor. Let's start. What is that? How can we use that to boost our productivity?
Yeah. So the irony of wanting to improve ourselves is that, like I was just speaking to, it's like, well, that takes time, but I don't have time. So it's this whole catch-22. And I thought it would be a great place for us to start, because I truly believe that if you want things to last long term, starting small and stacking upon each other, good habits, good behaviors is what will get results. And I've just seen that, with my clients for so long. And so a framework to that is, bookending your day. That's what I call it. So 4 routines to bookend your day. And I kind of liken it to, we were talking, we're both moms, is like, you want your kids to eat vegetables, so you sneak them in the smoothie. Well, bookending your day is kind of like sneaking in those veggies for yourself, is like, where can you sneak in those habits that when they're stacked upon each other and you show up consistently, have huge impact on your business and your personal life. And why there's 4 routines is because I am very aware we don't get to just show up one way in our business and a different way in our personal lives. Like, we are small business owners. So who we are personally is who we are and how we show up as a business owner, a leader in our businesses. And so, when I started out, like you said, it's a snowball. But when I started out, I thought it was like just organization and just time management. But as you and I would agree, it's also energy management. And so that's why we want to make sure these routines are setting ourselves up with habits and routines that give us that focus and that energy that is needed to sustain. Well, anything can happen during a workday, right? Like that's the unexpected that goes in the middle. So let's just start off with, I will share the 4 routines and then we can kind of break them down and just have some, ideas about what can go in them. So the 4 routines are having a personal morning routine, a business morning routine, an evening business routine, and then an evening personal routine. And when I say routine, I mean like it could be a 15-minute routine. It could be like me, my personal morning routine is quite lengthy, probably almost 2 hours usually. I really like my slow morning routine. And so the time doesn't matter. It's about what do you want to put into it? Because then we have a lot of flexibility with structure. I don't know if you hear this from your clients, but sometimes they say, oh my gosh, like I'm not a structured person. That's too much structure. That doesn't feel good. And this is a simple solution to put some structure in with a ton of flexibility.
I love that. You're right. I do get that. Is like, I find that there are 2 types of people, ones that love structure, routine, repetition.
Yeah.
That's me. But I also have had clients that are like, no, that feels restricting. So I'm really intrigued by this because one of the things I always like to think too is that a little bit of structure gives you more freedom, especially if you're planning in freedom. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but
Right.
how does the bookend routine system help those that don't like the rigid routine? How does it help with flexibility?
Well, because we're not starting off saying, okay, this is how your whole business day needs to look like. This is how your whole business week needs to look like. And you can even take that into, so I am more like you. So if you were to look at my regular work schedule, like I love structure, I love routine, I love time blocking, I love color coding, but not in my personal life.
Interesting.
So I am like, let's be honest, I am much more structured than most people in my personal life, but it's not the same. So for me, I had just kind of said, my morning personal routine is quite lengthy because you're not going to hear me say, work out for 20 minutes, drink coffee for 15, journal for 5. Like that is not how I like to wake up in the morning. So then these routines can become whatever feels right for you. Like that's the exciting part of this is like no one's going to tell you what they should be or what they should look like. It's about experimenting with what works best and putting in those little habits and behaviors that allow you to reach your goals, not my goals, not your goals, but like your goals. And that I think someone can get excited about, even if it feels a bit more structured, but there could be even lots of flexibility within the routine.
Oh, I like that. That's a great answer to that. So let's start at the beginning. You have morning personal routine. Give us a little idea of like, how long is it? What goes in it? What order? Is there an order? Like, okay,
Right.
break it
Right.
down for us.
So in my opinion, everyone has their own, real life time constraints, but they also have their own goals. So, for me, I think it's also worth saying that routines change over time. So sorry, I do want to answer your question, but I think my son just started school this week. And so it's very relevant to say that your routine maybe during the school year with children might be different than the summertime or as the time changes, right? Like your routine in the morning might be running, but not in the winter because it's like dark as dark can be. So that's also part of the flexibility is to say like it can change and serve you. And that's my answer to you. So for me, I am a morning person because I've created a routine that works for me. It's coffee, It's sitting out on the patio to get like in the nature, time with my puppy dogs. It's doing some yoga. Honestly, I do a little free time, so I flex. And to be honest, this is not something that you would expect from your productivity specialist, but sometimes it's reading a book. I would watch a video, like if I'm learning about something. I've been, learning about cryptocurrency lately, so I might be like, throwing in a little bit of learning time. And sometimes I'm watching a little trash TV because that's not what we do after dinner in the house. And so I might squeeze that in a little bit. But it's about, what do I need to set myself up, have some me time, and then before I start the day. But it could also be journaling. It could be your gratitude list. So I do affirmations. I do affirmations with my son in the morning. Those are just a few things that you'll find in my morning routine, but honestly, it could be anything. If you had a goal that you wanted to read more, what I would think is that it's either, you could say 20 minutes of reading, or you could say 10 pages of reading, or one chapter of reading. But could you imagine what that looks like compounded day after day? How many books you get to read, or how much you get to learn if that was one of your goals? And so what are the little things that you can do that really make an impact when you see them being compounded for your personal self?
Yeah, I really like that. And one of the things that I think would be beneficial to talk about is, I know I've listened to several of your podcasts where you've brought up the book Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And this might be a resource in addition to Amber's podcast to figure out what to put in your morning routine. So do you want to tell us a little bit? I haven't read the book.
It's
I've
a
heard so
great
many
book.
people talk about us, and there's an acronym that he has.
Yes,
Tell us
savers.
about that.
Yes. So I actually do refer to this in anytime that I'm usually sharing about it. So thank you for reminding me. So yes, it's called the Miracle Morning. And he did this beautifully as well. Is he created an acronym called Savers, and it's a framework, but then you get to put, like, he's giving you the framework of the pieces, but then you get to customize it. And so it's things like silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading. And then the last one, and if I didn't get all these exactly correct, I don't have them in front of me. And then the last one is scribing, like writing, but it has to match with his acronym. So it's called Savers. And his whole point is that if you're investing in yourself, how can your life drastically change? And with that framework, what would you want to do with regards to adding a little bit of time that was purposeful with a little bit of structure and flexibility that you get to choose, right? And honestly, it's about conquering the day before it conquers you. How much better do you feel that you could show up and be prepared if you first took some time for yourself as a mom, right? We were talking about this before we hit record. As a mom, as a leader in your business, when your customers call and things are going sideways, if you've taken time to do gratitude, and this could really just be 15-minute routine, right? How much better could your day be set up? And how much more productive, like mindset. That's the piece too that I think we should talk about, is that when we train ourselves to show up like this in these 4 routines consistently, it actually has this positive effect on our mindset and how we show up the rest of our day in all areas of our life as well.
Oh, so if you're listening to this episode right now and you've listened to a couple episodes ago with Kate Saffel, this same theme came up. So notice this. These are successful business owners telling us, like, time in the morning to set your brain and your thinking for the stage of your day. It impacts long-term how you're showing up in your life. So this might be something you want to like pause and write down, come back to if it's not something you're doing consistently. I love that. Yes. So the second routine is the business morning routine. Now, I have to say the business morning and evening routine are new to me. So I'm super intrigued about these.
Yes. And so we want to be able to put these like borders onto our business day, these barriers of, if your normal work day is, for example, 9 to 5, Are you scheduling a call for 9 o'clock? Are you doing an interview at 9 o'clock? Are you working all the way to 5 o'clock? If that's the case, you're probably feeling like you're behind like all the time, trying to catch up, frantic, maybe a little chaotic. And so by bookending your day with these two routines really just anchors you and allows you either to plan your day or, review your day, prepare for your meetings, just feel like you're hitting the day being more proactive than reactive.
I really
That's
love
the
that.
big one. Mhm.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean by having a call scheduled at 9 and you get into your day, you slip in at like 8:55 a.m. And like I'm always like, oh, it'd be so much nicer to have like 20 minutes, half an hour before to like, organize my thoughts, get all my proper windows pulled up for my coaching calls and my notepad and everything. That's fantastic. So what
Yeah.
kind of things go in this business morning routine?
Yeah. So your business morning routine could be reviewing your schedule, preparing for your meetings. And you know what? We're going to talk about it. Most people's morning routines, because routines are all around us, is jumping into your inbox, right?
Mm.
I think this is actually worth saying. Someone might say, like, I'm not a routines person. Okay, I hear you, but I'm almost certain that when you take a shower, you're either someone that washes their hair and then their body, or their body, then their hair.
True.
You're usually someone that either puts their pants on first or their shirt on first. There's going to be a time in the morning that you're eating your breakfast, and then the next person's like, I don't even eat breakfast, or I eat breakfast last. So there are these routines, but what I'm asking is that we're aware of those and we do them on purpose, because routines are all around us and they're either working for us or against us.
Mm.
And so when I say the tendency is, even if we were to get in and there was no meeting at 9 o'clock, what is your knee jerk reaction? And asking yourself, is that serving you? Is that helpful to how you're going to show up the rest of the day? And generally, jumping in your inbox isn't it. What are some alternatives? Looking at your calendar, looking at your to-do list, preparing for a meeting. For me, my morning routine consists of tapping in with my team and answering any questions that they have, sending reviewed work back or feedback back so that they can work all day. And then also, I've moved that from maybe getting it throughout the day and distracted because I don't want to hold my team up, but really batching it in the morning so that I get to be my most productive self and the team gets to be their most productive self. So that's just an example of something that I have in my morning business routine. And I'm just curious, like you said, this was new to you, but like, what is your normal, like you're saying you don't have a routine, but you do. So what, and not to put you on the spot, like, but what is something that you tend to do when you walk into your office?
So I'm in a really unique season of my life right now with my 10-week-old baby. So it's
Yes.
looking different every morning, which I mean, I'm really getting used to this as being a more of a time-oriented person. But I
Mhm.
actually find like right now, I'm up around 5:30, I get the coffee and I'm on the laptop because I'm trying to get work done before the baby wakes up. Then I'll take a break with her and jump back in. But what that usually looks like, it's interesting. I will open, and you know what? As of lately, I've been jumping into Instagram, into my DMs, and having those
Mhm.
conversations. But the interesting thing is, I've also labeled that as the big thing moving my business forward right now is creating one on one connection. That's what I'm prioritizing. So I'm wondering if I have that intention that this is my needle mover, is having these conversations,
Yes.
building these relationships. Is that something that should be at the beginning?
That is the yes. So you're putting in your high value activity. So I put my high value activity in the morning, but it's not necessarily my morning routine. But for you, because it's an activity you have to do consistently and a little bit every day, I think you nailed it. And also, does it give you energy? Like, do you enjoy those connections and those one-on-one conversations? If that's true, it's a great thing to put in the morning because it's setting yourself up to have a great day because you're starting off with something you love. Oh, there's so much you just said I want to pull back. So when I had my son, he was a toddler. and I was starting my business, I would start my day at 3 a.m. every day. Okay. And so, like you, I would get 3 hours of work done before he woke up. But then I started my like quote unquote morning routine with him because I can do that with him. I could not work and get focused work done with
No.
him when he's a baby and
No.
toddler. And so you just drove that point home. You even used the word like this season in my life. And so if anyone gets anything out of this, is like, hey, what are your 4 routines? But like, they don't need to look like anyone else's. Like, how can they serve you in this season of your life and with your goals? And for me, I was building a business with a baby. You're doing the same thing. And so, yeah, getting into work first and then maybe flipping the walk because you can take your baby on a walk with you, or flipping the coffee. And I never flipped the coffee. Coffee was always with
No,
me.
coffee never moves. That's like step one.
Yeah, exactly. But see how there's flexibility and also no judgment. And I think that so many of us think it needs to look a certain way or self-judge, then we don't do it and we don't give ourselves permission to set it up for something that seems joyful.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing like your morning routine. Um, and some people are morning people and they're going to jump right out of bed into their running shoes, right? I'm not judging them. It's not me, right? I'm like a car that needs warming up. And so because I know that about myself, I've created a schedule that supports that. But that's the flexibility part. And we keep coming back to that. And I think the reason too that we want to share that is why somebody may not do these routines is that they're telling themselves there's too much structure. We're telling you that's not true. There's flexibility. You may say, I'm not a morning person, then make a routine that supports you. Like there's no excuse we're going to leave on the table here on why everybody can't leave with 4 routines that work for them at the end of today's episode.
Yeah, right. Because I think what you said was really interesting, whether you put your pants on first or your shirt, whether you should, like, we do have a lot of routines. Like, I definitely am a shampoo first and then the soap. Like,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. I love that. Okay, so we've done our morning business routine. Now we're in the third one, evening business routine. What is an evening business routine?
So you want to wrap up your day on your terms. You don't want to be running out of the office. And this is where I'll say that some of this can be evening routine and some of it can be a morning routine. I teach the 5 planning pavers to wrap up your day. But honestly, if that does not work for you because you're ending your day at 3 o'clock to go pick up the kids and that just, you're like, end my day at 2:30, like that's weird. You could do this same framework and then put it in your morning routine if you want. The key is you're not going to start your day without doing the 5 daily planning pavers. And so the 5 daily planning pavers that I share as a framework for my clients is 5 steps. So the whole goal is I actually internally, we call it the daily wrap, RAP, so review and action plan. And so the first thing we're going to do is look at today's calendar. And this is really big because one of the things that feels like it's overwhelming in our businesses is that things are falling through the cracks. So you meet with somebody, you're on a call with somebody, you talk to a team member and you're like, yeah, I'll get that to you. Yep, I'm going to follow up with you. And maybe it gets written on a random piece of notepad or, it's just in your head. And so the daily wrap's going to help you close out your day and set your plan for tomorrow. So when we review our day, we're using it as like a reminder or trigger. Like, oh yeah, I spoke to Tanessa and she said she wanted to do Instagram. Let's make sure we get a circle back email call, like, right? So things don't fall through the cracks. So you're looking through the day and you're also looking at maybe what didn't get done. Okay, because the truth is we plan our days. Days don't always go as planned. And so we want to make sure that when that happens, not if it happens, that we capture those things and make sure we adjust our plan for tomorrow to accommodate for anything that did not get done. So that's reviewing today. And then the next step is you'll review tomorrow. And this really even sets you up for showing up even more prepared the next morning, but looking ahead and saying, oh, you know what? I forgot to prepare for that meeting or that interview. And so now you know exactly what to step into when you do start your day tomorrow. Or it could be, I need to send this email out. So again, we're just using it as a trigger, looking at tomorrow, what needs to be prepared, and how much time do we actually have to get things done off our to-do list? Okay. Now, this is just one aspect, but if you have this long list of things you want to do, but you're in meetings all day and you keep that long list and you tell yourself, tomorrow I'm going to do it, you're really setting yourself up for self-sabotage and feeling like crap at the end of the day. So I really like to look at the day and find those pockets of time. And then so that we can be really intentional with what we plan to get done that day. So that's step 2. Step 3 is just a brain dump, like a mind sweep. This could be giving yourself a moment, and these are those little habits and behaviors that can change everything, is that we have so much that's going through our heads. We could be thinking about a marketing launch, a client, or that we forgot chicken broth for dinner. Like it's literally could be all the things in our head. But if you get into this routine and this habit of just asking yourself, is there anything else that I need to update my to-do list with? This will help with that feeling of overwhelm and stress, all the things you work on, right? Like this is the actual physical strategy to help our mental, how we show up is to get it out of our heads so that we're clear thinking, that we're not in the emotion of feeling overwhelmed. And it's this little thing of like, hey, what else do I need to capture and get on my to-do list? And then step number 4 is to prioritize. And this is really important because I didn't just ask you to update your whole to-do list just to feel overwhelmed by a long to-do list, but only when you fully update your to-do list and you can see everything that needs to get done, can you properly prioritize what needs to get your time, energy, and attention the next day. So once you've prioritized, like here's the top 4 things I'm going to do and focus on tomorrow. The 5th step is to schedule that on your calendar.
I love that.
Yes.
That's my favorite part too. It's like, where will this go?
Yes. And when you schedule, there's something magical. It's not so magical, but it is a magically impactful that happens is that you are answering some very important questions. What am I doing specifically? When am I doing it? And for how long do I think I'm going to be doing it? How long do I think it's going to take to do it?
Okay,
And
I
say,
have a quick question about that right there.
Yes.
This is what I get all the time, and I have my own answer for this. I'd be curious what yours is. So say someone's doing this for the first time and they're like, I have no idea how long X task takes. I don't know what to put. And I often find people will just either way overestimate, way underestimate, or not do it at all. So what do you tell people when they say that?
Yeah. So here's the thing is, well, I definitely, those are 3 options, but generally we're more optimistic than we think we are, and everything is underestimated. So you're like, sure, that'll take 45 minutes. And you're like, 45 minutes. Oh my gosh, you're into it. And it's like, clearly this is going to be 2 hours. And so what my answer to that is you will get so much better when you keep getting this data feedback loop, which means when you're planning your day every day and guesstimating how long something's going to take, you're reprogramming. You're like, oh, it didn't take that long, or it did take that long, because now you're hyper aware of how long things take. You don't have that information at first because you're doing things while probably being incredibly distracted. Yes. So when I say, how long does it take to, I don't know, outline a podcast? I do outlines, right? And I would tell you, 90 minutes. It takes me about 90 minutes to outline a podcast. Well, I didn't have that answer until I was able to sit down, fully focused, distraction-free, interruption-free, and get into a groove, and it takes me 90 minutes. If I was allowing all the distractions, or I got bored and then I jumped into Facebook or I jumped into Instagram, I wouldn't know. I'd be like, I don't know. It feels like it takes a half a day to outline an episode.
Yeah.
right?
And then sometimes it's only an hour. I don't know what the difference is.
Right. Well, and there's natural differences because you're right. Like I'm on the long side would be 90 minutes, but some topics, I may have been thinking about behind the scenes, like in my head, and it just flows out of me. And I'm like, bonus time. It only took 45 minutes, but I thought it was going to take 90. But to answer your question specifically, I can tell you, I have seen it time and time again that you get better and better at estimating how long tasks, activities, projects take. The area that you can get really good in is the things that you're doing consistently in your business because you've done them before or you've done similar things. And so you'll have that information to feed that. And so when you're blocking that time off on your calendar, for example, if I were to say, oh, episode 272 needs to be outlined tomorrow, I would put 90 minutes. And then the goal is that for that 90 minutes, you're practicing all your best productivity habits. So your email's closed, your phone's on silent, you're not distracting yourself, and you're getting into some deep work on these 3 or 4 things that you said were absolutely important. And it could even be a 15-minute task, but you're just doing that one task for that 15 minutes and then evaluating. So how long did it take? Oh, took 15 minutes. We're all good.
Yeah, I love that. Those are such great steps to go through in that evening routine. And it was funny, one of the ones that I was listening to on your podcast this morning, which I think is fun to mention as well, you said clean off your desk to come in
Okay,
front. And
yes.
I was like thinking of my desk, I was like, oh boy, like there is scrunchies and lip gloss and yesterday's cups of water and like a fan remote control. Like it has all the things. And I'm like, this needs to change, but I'm going to integrate that. The business evening routine, I think, is the biggest one that I'm just literally like, whoop, 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, here I go, I'm out the door. But and you're right. You show up the next morning, you're just like, where am I? What is
Yeah.
going on today? So I love that.
So you said something on my podcast about like what you're doing tonight sets you up for success tomorrow about sleep, right?
Yeah.
How you put yourself to sleep, the whole routine about getting to sleep sets you up for success tomorrow. And the same thing is true for your business evening routine, your personal evening routine, which you can definitely speak to. I did mention cleaning off your desk. Now, that isn't part of the daily wrap like framework that I teach, but that's just one piece of maybe a 30. So that daily wrap I shared could be 15 minutes and your end of the day routine could be 30 or 20 minutes. And if your goal is to have a physically more organized and clutter-free space because that allows clutter-free in your mind, allows you to focus better during the day. Like if you've tied that all to your goals, then absolutely take 5 minutes, clean off the top of your desk, march all the cups out. I know I have to do that at the end of the day too. Sometimes a couple trips out, a couple coffee cups, water, all the things. But if that becomes your routine, then you're setting yourself up like that's the way you start your day in the morning as a clean desk.
I love that.
And I didn't share that in the morning business routine, but like I have a candle and I have some plants. So I check on my plants, make sure they don't need water. And then I light the candle and then I sit down at my desk. Like there's this whole ritual to it before I even am at my computer. But that didn't start day one. It's like you add a little bit in and then you add a little another thing that feels good and you stack them. Because if you leave today's episode and you're inspired to create these 4 routines, but you go big and elaborate, that might feel a little self-defeating. So start with what you do, tweak it, add something else, and keep stacking the things that feel good and support your goals over and over again.
Yeah, so that kind of almost answers a question that I was going to ask after we went through the 4 routines, but like, is that your suggestion for making routines stick? Because I mean, we've all heard the story of, or we've been in it ourselves where we, start a new routine and it all of a sudden we're like, what happened to my routine? Is that what you would say, the stacking?
Yes. And while I believe that the goal is to have 4 routines, if you have no routines, I say start with 1 routine. You can start at the easiest place. You can start at the place that's causing you the most challenges. It's up to you. But if you started with For example, this is totally you. So like if your biggest challenge was like, I get Amber talking about productivity and focus and like, but like I'm not sleeping good. And you acknowledge like that's your biggest goal right now is to get good sleep. Then I would be like, evening personal routine is your biggest goal right now. And just focus on landing that. Like you land that, it's going to make it easier to wake up at a certain time and be consistent with your morning personal routine. And so once you've nailed the evening personal routine, then maybe you'll stack the morning routine and then another business routine. And over time, it's just going to be the way that you operate. But just like with my clients, like you said, you used to be a trainer at the gym, right?
Yeah.
I'm just guessing here because we have a lot in similar. You didn't tell someone that can't run to the mailbox to like go run 10 miles. Like that
No.
doesn't happen. Okay.
No.
So you're like, even if they said, oh my gosh, like I did it, they're not coming back the next day or even the next day. Like they're so sore and tired. So this is very similar to my approach with productivity, time management, and thus these routines is identify where you're at and then add to it and then add to it and add to it until they all feels like it's sticking and you're not feeling like it's this uphill like marathon we've asked you to run.
Yeah, it's almost like these 4 routines are dominoes that you can put in any order that you want to tackle first. And then you can almost insert all the little habits or routines, which are the mini dominoes in between. But when you knock over one, you start to gain momentum in creating the other ones. Just like you said, maybe it's mastering the evening routine and sleep, which lets you get up on time and have a morning routine so that you're not rushing into your business, which you can have a morning routine and then you're nice and calm so you can wrap up the day with a clean desk.
Right. And so your domino like analogy there is perfect because we are business owners, so we are like responsible for ourselves. And I know that someone's listening that's like, so that means I have to start the day at the same time every day. Like that's already a great idea. Like, okay, well, if that's a challenge of starting your day at the same time every day, or at least the time you choose, right? Like, let's say it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday is one time, Tuesday, Thursday is another. If you just want to start your day when you say you want to start your day, it might have started with what time you went to bed the night before to wake up today to have the morning routine, to have the business personal routine.
Like routine
And
inception, isn't it? Like the routine within a routine.
and so this is how, like you said, it snowballs, but it snowballs into feeling and experiencing joyful success, achieving these goals that otherwise may have felt unattainable because it felt like so much had to change when really it could have been 4 15-minute routines a day.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, so I want to make sure we get to the last
Yes.
routine, which is the evening personal routine. Now, I mean, if anybody's listened to the podcast for any amount of time, you definitely have heard my take on it. So, what is your take on the evening personal routine?
Yeah. So my take is very similar to yours, except for I'm not the expert, is like, what do you need to do to get a good night's sleep? There has been studies that said, and again, like I think you're probably aware of it, but like if you don't get sleep over and over again for a long period of time, it's worse than showing up to work drunk. Right.
Yeah, I think
Like
there's
I'm
more car.
paraphrasing that study, but like that's
Yeah.
major. And so when I know that and I'm saying like, hey, like you want to improve on your focus and your ability to do deep work and show up your best for your clients and your team. And the struggle is you are just plainly exhausted. You're burnt out. You're not getting good sleep. Your body's not feeling good. What needs to happen in your evening personal routine? Is it stretching? Is it turning off the electronics? Is it eating at an earlier time? Like, what are these little things that are these behaviors and habits that you can be purposeful with that then set you up for a good night, thus a good day? And that's really, I think, unique to each of us, but there's some staples of, what we know works. I often hear, it's just so hard to wake up in the morning. I'm not a morning person. And I hear this with my clients a lot. And then I say, okay. And I don't even acknowledge that. And I say, what time are you going to bed? What time, how many hours of sleep do you need? And instead of focusing on making them wake up at a certain time or a morning person, the work starts with, what is your evening routine? What time are you going to sleep? And then see, we jumped ahead, and then you fix that. And then now we don't even need to talk about you not waking up to get into the office or, starting your day successfully.
Yeah, it's so funny. I always say that if you're starting from scratch and you are to master one habit first, where do I start? It's going to bed on time. Because I mean, if we start looking into the science of what happens when you have short duration sleep, which is actually defined as less than 7 hours asleep, not in bed, asleep, and knowing that we do spend a good chunk of our night awake, our brain does not sleep all the way straight through. If we are not getting at least 7 hours, or if our sleep is interrupted, it affects your hormones, it affects inflammation, it affects what happens with your blood sugar, it affects your brain's ability to focus. All of this has us showing up the next day with brain fog and groggy. Yeah. And you can have the best routines in the world, but if you are showing up with brain fog, nothing is going to take the amount of time you allotted for it. And I always find, like, if you said your podcast outlines take 90 minutes, that feeling of brain fog. What if now every task takes you an extra 15 minutes to 30 minutes because your brain's not working as quickly?
Absolutely.
That snowballs really quickly. And all of a sudden you're not getting as much done. And that does impact how fast you want to move with your business. So I love that. One habit, just go to bed on time. It'll change your life. I promise.
Yeah. So then the question is, like, what decisions need to be made to go to bed at that certain time? And maybe that's your evening routine. Like, what needs to happen earlier in the evening so that it's not sabotaging you going to bed at that time that you've determined you need to go to bed. Just thinking that out. And we've teased this, but I think talking about the evening routine is a good place to say this, is that sometimes these routines are about switching a habit out. So for me, like reading on my phone, I'm reading on my phone all the time. But maybe that doesn't work for you when you go to sleep. So are you just switching it out with a paper book? Like, don't say I don't read on my phone anymore. I don't read to go to bed. Like, don't fight it. Don't make it worse than it needs to be. Can we just experiment and say, well, I'm interested. What would it feel like if I read out of a book instead of on my phone at night? And have fun with it, experiment with it, see what habits and behaviors you want to switch out that support you and propel you towards achieving your goals.
I love it. I can almost just hear everyone listening's brain go, oh, I've got something I want to try right now, whether it's one thing I do. I'm like all about that business evening routine. When you have those things, you're like, that is missing. Yes. And I love that. So I hope that if you're listening right now, you're having that moment. So we have covered a pretty robust routine system, how to stick to it, what to put in them, how to progress them, maybe where to start if you don't know where to start. This has been so helpful, and I know everyone is going to love this. But if everyone is like, okay, I'm all about the productivity, which I am and you are, yes. Where can we find you on the socials?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a podcast called Productivity Straight Talk. You can find it anywhere you're listening to podcasts, or you can go to amberdelagarza.com. You can find out all my information there. I like to hang out on Instagram, and it's Amber_De La Garza. And then if you want to reclaim 30 minutes each and every day, I have a free mini training. And so if you don't mind, I can share that with your audience. So if you go to amberdelagarza.com/take back your time, it's under 30 minutes, mini training, and I teach you how to reclaim 30 minutes back each and every day, every single day, like compounded. So it's a mini training you don't want to miss. And again, you can grab that at amberdelagarza.com/take back your time.
And I'm going to have all of that linked in the show notes. But if you have if you're doing the return challenge along with me, if you've been listening to some of the episodes that I've been doing on my postpartum recovery journey and getting back, you'll know that I have that list of habits that you might actually have grabbed already from me. And if you're just like, I love these habits, but I don't know where to put them, ooh, maybe you should go check out Amber's 30-minute training and get 30 minutes back, and then walk on back to the habit list and put one of those habits in that 30 minutes. See, I love this.
This is
such a good
so
team.
good. Yeah.
You want something done, you come to one of us.
Exactly. Like, don't let the belief that you don't have time or saying I don't have time stop you from doing whatever it is that you want to do. And so that's what we're here for. That's what we're doing here today.
Amazing. I love it. All right. So make sure you go follow Amber everywhere she just said. Go get her training. I am so excited to hear about how everything is going. If you love this episode, screenshot it, put it on your Instagram story, and tag both Amber and me so that we can celebrate you and ask you what you're up to and what you've implemented. And feel free to always ask us questions too. And, we would love to see how you're doing on your journey to be more productive. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, Amber, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for having me.
Learn something new in this episode or feel inspired to take action? I'd love for you to share it with a friend and leave a review. Your review will help one more entrepreneur feel healthier, more energized, and focused. If you feel good about helping a friend or a fellow business owner you've never even met, you are my kind of people. I'm excited to help you become limitless in the coming episodes.